Have you ever wondered why some women seem to possess a magnetic power that draws men in, not through overt gestures or desperate pursuit, but through the quiet force of their presence alone? It is the quiet ones who, paradoxically, often hold the most profound allure. They move through the world with a sense of stillness, a calm unshakable in its depth, that unnerves those around them. For men particularly, this stillness can be intoxicating. It stirs something within them, a longing they cannot quite articulate. But this power is not born out of superficial tactics or manipulative games. No, this power is rooted in something far deeper, far older, the archetype of the feminine detached from egoic need. Carl Jung once spoke of the shadow, that aspect of the unconscious mind which we reject, deny, or hide from the world. But what if detachment in its truest form is not an absence, but a conscious and deliberate release of attachment to outcomes, people, and the validation of others? What if true feminine power lies in the ability to stand in the world without needing to grasp at it, without needing to be needed? This is the essence of the feminine detached, the ability to embody the full range of one's being while remaining unaffected by external expectations or desires. It is not about shutting oneself off from the world, but rather about being grounded in the self, the authentic, untouchable core of one's spirit. It is a state of being that men instinctively sense, and like moths to a flame they are drawn to it, seeking not to possess, but to understand and to feel the magnetic force that lies within it. When a woman achieves this level of detachment, she is no longer tethered to the whims of others. She no longer chases validation, approval, or love. And in this detachment, something shifts in the dynamic between her and the world. She becomes less available to the games of desire and more aligned with the archetype of the sovereign feminine, that of the queen, the priestess, the goddess who holds space not through forceful action, but through the simple knowing of her own value. Men, in their deepest, unconscious selves, are drawn to this. Not because they want to possess it, but because it reflects a part of themselves they have often abandoned, their own capacity for stillness, their own shadow. In a world where men are conditioned to chase and conquer, the woman who stands sovereign in her detachment serves as a reflection of their own untapped depth. They long to be near her, to experience the silence that she embodies, because it reminds them of what they've been too afraid to confront in themselves. But how does this detachment manifest? It begins with understanding the nature of attachment itself. In every relationship, there is an unconscious contract formed between two people. Often, one person becomes the pursuer and the other the pursued. But when a woman detaches, she no longer plays the role of the pursued. She no longer engages in the egoic games of love, where validation is sought through constant interaction or the appeasing of another's desires. She no longer needs to respond to every text, answer every call, or seek reassurance in the eyes of others. This level of detachment is not about rejection. It is about a deliberate decision to no longer seek from others what can only be given by the self. She understands that love, attraction, and even respect are not gifts bestowed by another, but qualities that must first be cultivated within. And in cultivating this internal power, she becomes a woman who does not seek to be loved, but a woman who radiates a love that is whole in itself. The man who crosses her path is not greeted with desperation or need. No, she offers him a choice, the choice to step into her world or to stand outside it. And herein lies the paradox. When a woman detaches from the need to be loved, she becomes irresistible. Men sense it instinctively. They feel the quiet power, the stillness of a woman who is not playing games, who is not dependent on them for validation or fulfillment. This kind of power is intoxicating because it reflects a form of self-sufficiency that they cannot help but crave. It is the silent call of the feminine who has chosen to be whole within herself, the woman who walks through the world not needing anything, yet able to hold everything. In this space of detachment, a man may find himself questioning everything he thought he knew about desire. He may feel compelled to chase her, not because he wishes to control her, but because her energy stirs something deep within him. Her detachment brings to light the places where he himself is still attached, still grasping. She is, in a sense, his mirror, a reflection of his own potential for freedom, for release. And yet, he is left to wonder, is he worthy of the woman who needs nothing? This dynamic, the dance of attachment and detachment, desire and surrender, is the very essence of the power that the feminine holds. And it is the woman who has mastered her own detachment who knows that the most potent form of attraction is not the pursuit of another, but the ability to remain steadfast and unmoved within oneself. When a woman stands in her power, detached from the expectations of others, she becomes the sun around which others orbit, drawn not by force, but by the quiet magnetism of her own radiance. As the woman embraces her detachment, she also confronts her shadow, that dark, unexplored part of her psyche that holds all the rejected aspects of her being. The shadow is not merely the opposite of the light, but the hidden reservoir of strength, wisdom, and untapped potential. It is within the shadow that she will find the key to her deepest power, and it is in recognizing this shadow that her detachment becomes even more profound. Jung understood the shadow as an unconscious force that can manifest in both destructive and creative ways. It represents all the parts of ourselves that we disown or suppress, traits we deem unacceptable, emotions we hide, and desires we refuse to acknowledge. But what if the power of feminine detachment lies in accepting and integrating the shadow rather than rejecting it? What if, by embracing the darker, more enigmatic parts of herself, a woman could harness them, turning them into a source of strength, freedom, and magnetism? The woman who can stand detached from the external world is not simply free from attachment. She is also in deep communion with her shadow. She knows that to possess true feminine power, she must confront and integrate those parts of herself that others may view as unattractive, undesirable, or dangerous. She is not afraid of her anger, her jealousy, or her pain. These emotions are not weaknesses. They are messengers, teachers that carry wisdom if only she allows herself to listen. The detached woman is at peace with the full range of her being, knowing that her shadow is not something to be feared, but a resource to be understood and worked with. When a woman integrates her shadow, she no longer depends on external validation to feel whole. Her worth is no longer measured by the opinions of others or the transient affections of a man. She no longer needs him to validate her femininity, her beauty, or her power. She knows that these qualities come from within, from her ability to stand alone in the vast, sometimes lonely space of her own soul. And in this space, she becomes a radiant, self-sufficient force that others cannot help but be drawn to. Men, too, are drawn to this kind of power even if they are unaware of its source. The shadow of the feminine represents everything a man may have denied or suppressed within himself. He may be afraid of it, repelled by it, or completely captivated by it. Yet, in his unconscious mind he knows that this power is real, and it unsettles him in the most profound ways. A man who encounters such a woman is forced to confront his own fears, his own shadows, and often he will find himself magnetically pulled toward her. Not because she has done anything to try to attract him, but because he is drawn to the authenticity and completeness of her being. Her detachment does not mean emotional coldness or indifference. On the contrary, the detached woman is deeply in touch with her emotions, but she does not allow them to control her. She feels the full depth of love, desire, and even pain, but she chooses not to let these emotions govern her actions or her sense of self-worth. She does not cling, she does not chase. She understands that her emotional energy is sacred and must be protected. The man who enters her world must meet her where she is, not try to mold her into his desires. And so, the dynamic shifts. The man who once sought to control, possess, or dominate now finds himself in the position of surrender. He is no longer in control of the relationship. The detached woman has created a space where he must choose whether to align himself with her, or to walk away. But she does not need him to choose. Her own sense of self is so complete, so undisturbed by the need for external validation, that whether he stays or goes is irrelevant to her inner peace. This is the magic of feminine detachment. It is not a withdrawal from love or intimacy, but a redefinition of what those things mean. It is a deliberate act of emotional sovereignty, a declaration that a woman's worth is not contingent on another's attention or affection. When she detaches from the need to be validated by others, she steps into the fullness of her own power, and in doing so she becomes irresistible. The irony, of course, is that the more a woman detaches from the need for a man to complete her, the more attractive she becomes. Men are instinctively drawn to this quality because deep down, they know that this kind of woman offers them something they cannot find in a relationship defined by need. She offers freedom, autonomy, and the space to explore their own depths. In turn, the man who enters her life is invited into a dynamic that is based on mutual respect and deep, authentic connection, not ego-driven games or desperate attachment. As she stands in this space of emotional sovereignty, a woman realizes that she is not only attractive to others but to herself. She has created an inner world that is rich, self-sustaining, and untouchable. She is the queen of her own domain, and no external force can take that from her. She has learned the art of feminine detachment, not as a way of pushing others away, but as a way of claiming her own inner peace and power. In this dance of detachment, the woman finds herself embracing the highest form of feminine empowerment, the art of being present without clinging. It is this paradox, the ability to be emotionally available without becoming emotionally dependent, that infuses her with the magnetic force others feel. She has cultivated an inner peace so profound that her mere presence is enough to stir emotions and inspire desire. This presence is not a performance or an act, but the embodiment of self-possession, of knowing that she is complete as she is. It is a quiet power, subtle and often imperceptible to the untrained eye, but its impact is undeniable. The woman who has mastered detachment is not someone who has given up on love, but someone who understands the value of loving herself first. She knows that true love can only exist between two individuals who have fully realized their own worth. She does not seek to be rescued, to be filled, or to be completed. She is already whole. The energy she radiates comes from this unshakable foundation of self-love and inner peace. Men, however much they may desire her, cannot possess her, not because she does not give, but because she does not need to give for her worth to be affirmed. Her love is not transactional. It is an overflow of her inner world, offered freely to those worthy of it. But detachment does not mean that a woman becomes emotionally cold or distant. Far from it. It is the absence of attachment that gives her emotions their full depth and authenticity. When she chooses to love, she loves fiercely. When she chooses to be vulnerable, she is fully present in that vulnerability. But she does so with the knowing that her value is not tied to the reciprocation of love or affection. Her emotional energy is sacred, and she holds it with reverence. In this way, the detached woman gives not because she must, but because she chooses to. She gives freely but never at the expense of her own well-being. This distinction, the difference between giving because one must and giving because one chooses, is what sets the woman who has mastered detachment apart from those who are still lost in the cycle of need and validation. The detached woman understands that her worth is not up for negotiation. It is not contingent on how much someone else loves her or how much attention she receives. It is intrinsic, a birthright that cannot be taken or given away. And in this knowing, she becomes a source of inspiration for men and women alike. Men, in their search for meaning and connection, are drawn to the woman who is emotionally sovereign. She becomes the embodiment of something deeper, something far beyond the surface-level attraction that so often governs relationships. She is a reminder of what is possible when one stops chasing approval, when one stops seeking validation from the external world. She shows them what it means to be free, free from the need to chase, to please, to sacrifice one's own identity for another. She is a beacon of what it looks like when a woman truly owns her power. In this space of freedom, the dynamics between the woman and the man shift. No longer is there a sense of competition, of pursuit or conquest. There is simply an invitation to dance together, to exist in each other's world without the pressure to define or possess. The man is invited to meet her where she stands, not to win her, but to share in the experience of being whole together. He no longer feels the need to prove himself, because she has already proven that she is enough on her own. The dance between them becomes one of mutual respect and admiration, a dynamic built on true connection rather than ego-driven desire. But perhaps the most powerful shift happens within the woman herself. The moment she fully detaches from the need to be validated by others, she steps into the fullness of her own power. This is where true feminine energy is born, in the quiet understanding that she does not need to be seen, validated, or adored to be complete. She is whole in herself. This sense of inner wholeness becomes the ultimate form of attraction. No longer does she chase after anyone, for she knows that those who are meant to be in her life will find their way to her. She does not need to seek approval, nor does she need to hold on to anything. She is the embodiment of what it means to be free, emotionally and spiritually. As she embodies this freedom, the men who cross her path will find themselves drawn to her in ways they do not fully understand. They will feel a pull, a magnetic force that seems to come from deep within her being, and they will find themselves craving her in a way they cannot explain. They may chase her, they may pursue her, but ultimately, it is not her that they long for, it is the freedom she represents. The detached woman becomes the living embodiment of what it means to be free, and in this freedom, she is irresistibly attractive. Not because she seeks attention, but because she has become a reflection of the freedom they too wish to experience. This power of detachment, then, is not something to be feared, but something to be revered. It is not a retreat from life or love, but a way of standing in one's own truth without needing anyone or anything to define it. The woman who masters this art is not a woman who needs to chase, but a woman who chooses, and in choosing herself, she becomes magnetic to the world around her. The woman who has truly embraced her detachment finds herself standing on the edge of a profound truth. She is enough, simply as she is. Her worth is not measured by how much she is desired, nor by how much she gives to others. She is not defined by the roles others wish to impose upon her. She defines herself. This is where true feminine power begins, in the knowing that she is not here to be fixed, to be completed, or to be needed. She is here to exist in her fullness, to express herself freely and to choose her own path. In many ways, this act of detachment, of letting go of the need to be validated, is the ultimate form of rebellion. It is a rebellion against the societal expectations placed on women to be passive, to play the role of the nurturer, to give of themselves endlessly without ever asking for anything in return. The detached woman refuses to conform to these expectations. She refuses to be a servant of anyone's desires, including her own. She is no longer the object of someone else's gaze or the fulfillment of another's emotional needs. She is her own sovereign being, moving through life with the grace and power of a woman who knows exactly who she is and what she wants. This self-definition is essential to the magnetic allure she radiates. When a woman is not constantly seeking external validation, she becomes a mirror for others, especially men. The man who encounters her feels the sharp contrast between her quiet, composed strength and the fragility of his own ego. In her presence he feels challenged. He may even feel threatened, for she reflects the parts of him that he has not yet fully explored, his own shadows, his own fears and desires. And yet this is precisely why he is drawn to her. In the deepest part of him, a man craves the type of woman who does not seek him out of need. He craves the woman who stands in her own power and is unmoved by the games of validation and pursuit. This woman forces him to question himself, to look inward, and to confront his own ego. No longer is he the one with the power to chase or control. No longer can he use her as an object to satisfy his own emotional hunger. She does not allow him to use her. Instead, she invites him to meet her as an equal, as a woman who holds her own in the world and does not need anyone to define her. In many ways, the detachment that a woman practices becomes a mirror for a man's own ego. It invites him to confront the areas where he is still attached to external validation, still bound by the chains of egoic desire. He may be forced to ask himself difficult questions. Why am I so drawn to her? Why do I want her to need me? The detached woman offers no easy answers. She stands in her own truth, unmoved by his projections, and in doing so, she forces him to question his own. This act of shadow work, both for the woman and for the man, is a powerful transformation. It is the meeting of two people who have chosen to face their own shadows, not to project them onto one another, but to integrate them into their beings. The woman who stands in her detachment has done the work of self-reflection, of self-acceptance. She has faced her own fears, her own wounds, and has come to peace with them. She no longer sees them as weaknesses, but as integral parts of her whole being. And in doing so, she has become a force of nature, not because she is perfect but because she is whole. And it is this wholeness that becomes her greatest weapon. In a world where so many are still caught in the cycle of external validation, seeking love and attention to fill the void within, the detached woman stands as a beacon of self-sufficiency. She does not need to chase because she knows that what is meant for her will find its way to her. She has no need to grasp or hold on. In her freedom, she becomes the very essence of attraction, because she represents what so many men and women long for: emotional freedom, spiritual peace, and self-realization. The man who encounters her may be initially captivated by her mystery, by her stillness, by her unwillingness to chase or be chased. But over time he will come to understand that what he is truly craving is not her attention, but the peace that she embodies. The emotional detachment she practices becomes a mirror for the peace he longs for within himself. She does not seek to control him. She does not seek to manipulate him into loving her. Instead, she offers him a reflection of the highest form of love, unconditional, detached, and free. This is not the love of a woman who chases after validation or approval. This is the love of a woman who has already given herself everything she needs. She has found her completeness within, and it is this completeness that makes her irresistible. It is this profound sense of self-worth and inner peace that makes her magnetic. And it is in this space of emotional detachment that she becomes untouchable, not in a cold, distant way but in the sense that she cannot be manipulated, possessed, or controlled. She is free. And it is in this freedom that her true power lies. The woman who knows her worth does not chase. She does not beg. She does not need anyone to define her because she has already done so herself. And when a woman stands in this power, unshaken, unwavering, detached from external validation, she becomes the most irresistible force in the world. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.